Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Wonderful evening, isn't it? Okay. I have dedicated my entire life for the conservation of river dolphins and the Amazon. I traveled to the Amazon 37 years ago. With two classmates, we boarded a plane and we went to the Amazon to try to do something for these animals. I was 19 years old, and I was inspired by a talk with the iconic Captain Jacques Cousteau about the Amazon. So I decided to take the risk and just go to the Amazon. And I was in the middle of my career as a marine biologist. I have to confess that I arrived into the Amazon with the arrogancy of a universitary people that think that they know everything. But that was not the case. I needed to learn from the indigenous how to relate to the forests and to the rivers. And I had this romantic desire to protect the dolphins. But I soon understood that if I needed to protect the dolphins, I needed to protect the rivers as well. There are river dolphins only in South America and in Asia. We have about 9 different species. We have already one that was extinct in China. And they live in rivers where almost 20% of the whole population of the planet is living. 1.6 billion of people live in rivers where there are dolphins. And the impact, this human footprint, is huge, especially in rivers in Asia. For the indigenous in the Amazon, dolphins are a kind of very sacred beings. They believe that the dolphins live in underwater cities like us. There are so many stories and mythologies surrounding the dolphins. They are the jaguars of the water. But in South America, we face a lot of threats. We have deforestation. I mentioned before, we are already losing almost 1 million of square kilometers. We have a lot of fires in the Amazon. Also, we have fragmentations in the rivers. We have a lot of dams in the lowlands of the Amazon in Brazil, about 300, and we have also in Peru and in Bolivia, transforming all the landscape. We also have pollution by mercury, because the gold mining everywhere in the Amazon. And also we have bycatch. There are a lot of nets, and dolphins, especially juveniles and babies, are captured in these nets and die. And most recently, we have these conflicts between dolphins and fishermen. I mentioned before in one of the panels, dolphins learn how to remove the fish from the nets, and that creates a problem. But we are trying to solve this problem with technology and also working with local communities. But a new threat that was emerged was the extreme droughts in the Amazon. In 2023, the Amazon experienced the most dramatic threat in 100 years. In 2 lagoons in Brazil, central Brazil, in only 15 days, 330 dolphins died. Why? The water reached 41 Celsius degree, and all these animals die by thermal shock. But not only the dolphins. We lost millions of fish, and a lot of indigenous communities were isolated because of these droughts. We have 2024 with another very strong drought, and this year at least was better. We don't have a lot of losses of dolphins. But because of this, we create a program to assess the health of the dolphins and at the same time trying to address the health of the rivers. And we create a consortium of organizations in 7 countries, and it's called the South American River Dolphin Initiative, to try to tackle this situation. So we are working with fishermen, we are working with vets, biologists, authorities, and we are doing a lot of health assessments in the Amazon with the dolphins. But also, I explained as well before, we are tagging the dolphins. We are putting small tags in the dorsal fin, and now we know what are these important areas for dolphins, nursery areas, feeding areas, and we are working together with the governments in order to protect these areas. But during the last 20 years as well, we needed to know how many dolphins are. So we started to do expeditions. And now we have covered more than 90,000 kilometers of rivers in 7 countries. And we have trained more than 500 researchers, rangers, and local community leaders how to count these dolphins. Now we have some numbers. We know where they are in good conditions and where they are bad. In a small area of 750 kilometers, we have been monitoring during the last 30 years between Peru to Colombia. We know that we have lost 52% of the pink river dolphins and 37% of the gray dolphins. I feel a very strong connection with the dolphins, and I never cease to amaze me. And I remember I was with a National Geographic photographer in a lagoon in the Amazon trying to take some photos, and I was surrounded by 3 dolphins, and I decided to dive, but I lost my bandana. I always have a bandana, and that was my lucky one. You are seeing in the picture. So after I lost my bandana, I was so sad. Everybody was in silence. And suddenly, 3 or 4 minutes later, I felt a push, and was a dolphin with my bandana. They returned to me. I don't know if he was saying, okay, this is rubbish, take it with you, or what happened. But this bandana became very famous, and now they are going to exhibit next year in the Museum of Exploration in Washington, at National Geographic. I think conservation, we need to build solutions with the local communities. And that has been a central part of my life. From the beginning, I remember when I arrived to the Amazon, the indigenous didn't like a lot the biologists and the anthropologists. And I asked why. And they say to me, you come here, stay 1 week, collect all the information, and disappear. And I thought, it's right. So I need to stay. And I changed the approach, and I decided to stay in this small town in the Colombian Amazon. What we have done is working with the people, and we have fishery agreements, conservation agreements. We are recovering some species like the large pirarucu, that is a giant fish. Also, we are promoting tourism, but we are very focused on the restoration of the flooded forests. And I will explain you why. The Ticuna Indians have a magical tree, and they believe that this magical tree produces fish. And how is possible that? With the rain, these magical trees have some worms in the canopy, and with the thunders, they are scared, and they jump, and when they touch the water, they transform into fish. But they say that the Western people used to cut all the trees because they don't recognize the magical tree. But from the ecological point of view, all the trees are magical because there is an incredible synchrony between the rain and the flooded and the release of seeds for the forest. 1 hectare of forest can release 20 tons of seeds per year, and the seeds are the food of fish, and the fish are the food of dolphins. So everything is very well connected. So we have planted, during the last 5 years, more than 60,000 trees in the Amazon, in the flooded forest, with more than 1,000 indigenous families. So it's working. And this is some of the enterprise we are doing with sustainable tourism. And the fishermen that used to have trouble with the dolphins, now we train them to take tourists, and they are earning more money with the dolphins than even with the fish. But because the threats the Amazon are facing and the dolphins are facing are so great, and dolphins don't recognize borders, I decided to promote political solutions. So we convinced the government of Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru to produce a management plan. And we did it in behalf of the International Whaling Commission. And after that, we convinced the government of Colombia to invite all the countries where there are dolphins to a meeting and to sign a global declaration for the conservation of dolphins. And we had 11 countries signing this from 14. So that was a very good achievement. But we should recognize that rivers in the Amazon, many rivers in the Amazon, are polluted, are fragmented, and are running out of fish, dolphins, manatees, and other species. The rivers are becoming deserts of water, and we cannot allow this to happen. The rivers are the veins of the jungle, and we need healthy rivers to support the communities that are living there and also the biodiversity. So, during the last years, many people have proposed protected areas. We have national parks in the Amazon, we have indigenous reserves, and I am convinced that because the problem corresponds to humans, we need to design protect areas with people. And these areas with people, I think, are international importance wetlands and rivers that they are called Ramsar sites. There is a convention that all the countries have signed to protect the wetlands. So in that way, we are proposing to create hub spots in the Amazon. And this July, we went to Zimbabwe to the COP15 of Wetlands Convention, and we proposed a resolution. And that resolution includes river dolphins and other aquatic indicator species as a subject of conservation in all the wetlands in the planet. And that was endorsed by more than 140 countries. So that was an incredible achievement. We are now, thank you. We are in a planet that is in crisis, and we cannot be complacent with that. We need to move from being spectators and to move into the action. We need to create these new planetary conscience. And I think each one of us, maybe we are a drop of water, only a drop of water, but together we can be a big river. So I really invite you to flow with a purpose in your life and act now. Thank you.